Hello everyone, welcome. My name's Nick Stein with Salesforce, and I am here outside on Howard Street in San Francisco having an awesome Dreamforce. I'm joined today by Keith Rosen. Keith is the CEO of Profit Builders. He's an amazing executive coach, and he's the author of an incredible book that I recommend to all of you, How to Coach Salespeople into Sales Champions. Keith, tell us a little bit about the work that you do at organizations around the world.
Sure. Well, since writing my book in 2008, I've had the privilege of traveling the world, delivering my management coach training program on 5 continents in over 50 countries, working with thousands of managers and thousands of salespeople, helping managers really understand what it truly means to develop a strong bench of sales champions.
That's great. Now, I know coaching is something that a lot of sales organizations think about. Some of them may even do it. But what are the biggest pitfalls that you see when it comes to trying to bring a coaching type of program into a sales organization?
Well, inheriting the title of manager doesn't mean you inherit the skill set of a coach. So what managers first and companies need to understand is that coaching is a learned skill. And it's not just about adapting a coaching framework, but it's about what happens before as well as after you adapt a coaching framework. Because the one thing that needs to be present for coaching to be successful is trust. And a lot of managers don't realize that the reason why coaching fails is because they don't have the trust and the enrollment from their sales team. So the first step that managers really need to take is enrolling their sales team on what it means when they're coaching them, how coaching can make an impact on their career, on their success in their life. From there, it's about being consistent in the coaching, following a framework, and making sure that just like if you want to be healthy and be in good shape, the coaching never stops. It needs to be consistent, not only with your underperformers, but with your A, your B, as well as your C players as well.
Just a little bit of a follow-up to that. I know that sometimes people go right into coaching reps. You were talking a lot about frontline managers. And how important is it to get those frontline managers really bought into the coaching program before you kind of just let it roll with the individual performers, the reps on the front lines?
Well, I was saying avalanches roll downhill. It starts from the top and it goes all the way down. And if you don't have the buy-in from your executive and leadership team, then the coaching cannot be sustained and embedded in the culture. So managers, first and foremost, what they need to do is they need to abandon one very critical role that they're all part of, which is being the role of chief problem solver. Most managers believe their value is being the subject matter expert. So if you were my boss and I had a problem and I come to you, chances are you walked in my shoes before. Well, you're really good at solving problems. But every time I come to you and you give me the answer, think about the culture and the atmosphere you're creating on your team. You're creating an atmosphere of dependency. And the real irony is every time I come to you and you give me an answer, if the answer you give me doesn't work and I go out and execute it, then I come back to you and say, hey boss, my hands are clean. It's your fault, not mine. That was your solution. So we're actually robbing our people of the very accountability that we're looking to instill.
Now, one of the things I hear a lot when we talk about coaching is, oh, that's soft, you know. I'm in sales. I got to focus on closing business, building pipeline and closing that pipeline. Talk about the type of ROI that you've seen, the type of real business results that sales coaching can drive inside an organization.
Absolutely, and I think first and foremost we need to realize that there's an epidemic, a global epidemic, and managers are so very result driven. The real irony is that you don't coach the result. You coach the process that produces the result as a natural byproduct. After all, you can't keep asking the questions, so what's in your pipeline? How many calls did you make? What's going to close this quarter? Those are all important questions, but that's not building people. That's not developing people. We need to coach the how. How are you going about achieving those results? What's the process you're going to use? What is the conversation going to sound like when you engage with that prospect or customer? And once managers have a better handle on coaching the process and mastering the art of strategic, precision-based questioning, the ROI that follows is, number one, you increase forecast accuracy. You accelerate your sales cycle. You turn around your underperformers fast. You increase sales. You build a culture of people and you get to retain your top performers. And most important, yes, you get to have fun on your job again.
Well, one of the things that organizations really struggle with is onboarding new reps. Talk a little bit about how the coaching process can help get reps productive and effective more quickly and more seamlessly.
Let's work off the presupposition that you actually have a good hiring and recruiting process in place. But once that happens, you could hire the perfect rep. But if you don't have a 30, 60, 90-day strategic plan to onboard them and develop them, even the top rep could fail. So it's critical that within those first 30 days that you're making sure expectations are set with the rep. Not only that, but making sure that you're uncovering how they like to be coached, how they like to be managed, even how they like to be motivated and held accountable, because each person needs to be motivated and held accountable in a different way. Otherwise, managers wind up falling into this trap of coaching in their own image. Basically, what they wind up doing is saying, well, I know what made me successful, so I'm going to coach and manage you the same way. And once you start coaching in your own image, all you're doing is building robots. You're not tapping into your people's individuality, their own strengths and unique talents.
Well, you brought something up really interesting that I want to drill into a little deeper around motivation. What is it that really drives salespeople? Because we have this preconceived idea that it's just salespeople are coin operated, it's all about the payday. But I think research that I'm aware of tells a different story, that different kinds of motivation, different kinds of recognition can really have an enormous impact on sales performance.
You're 100% right. As a matter of fact, money is about number 4 or 5 on what truly inspires and motivates people to get out of bed and come to work. What people really want most in their job is to be recognized, to be heard, to be included, to be able to make an impact and be part of something. And actually, I heard a story one time. A manager said to me, Keith, why should I acknowledge my people for just doing their job? They just should know what they have to do. And then we wonder why the attrition rate is so high. If you really stop and think about it, and if managers could look in the mirror and say, do I really know what inspires my people? They really don't, because they really never take the time to sit down and ask, what gets you out of bed every day? What inspires you to come to work? What do you love most about your job? You know, design your ideal day. What would it look like? Where do you want to be a year from now or 2 years from now? When we can start really tapping into what inspires people, really uncover what their core values are, that's when you create alignment. And that's when a manager has the opportunity to align each person's individual goals with the corporate objectives.
Well, talk a little bit more about that, because I think sometimes individual performers can sort of go off on their own, and they may be successful day to day in their own minds, but they're not really achieving what's best for the organization. So how do you drive that alignment inside a sales organization?
Aside from consistency in coaching, the one thing that managers are lacking doing is observation. They're not spending enough time either in the field or listening on the phone when their reps and their salespeople are engaging with customers and prospects. Observation is critical for every manager to engage consistently with all their people. Otherwise, if you're not observing your people in the field, you have no idea what they're doing. And when I ask managers, how do you assess your talent? They say, oh, Keith, I look at the results. I look at the numbers. I look at the spreadsheet. I look at their activities. But the activity doesn't tell you how they're doing things. That just tells you what they're doing. So you can look at your spreadsheet all day, but we need to make a shift from being a spreadsheet or a data manager to truly being a people manager. And that means spending our time with the people in the field, really observing them to assess where they are in their skill set. Because if you look on a spreadsheet, you could look at your A players and you could look at your C players, and you could say, wait a second, my A players are engaging in the same activities that my C players are doing. How can I find out what they're doing differently? Well, you can through a spreadsheet. You need to see what they're doing in the real world.
That's great. Well, thank you so much, Keith, for joining us today. And enjoy the rest of Dreamforce. It's going to be awesome.